Have you ever wondered why the moment you stopped caring was the moment everything changed? Why the instant you released your grip, he couldn't stop reaching for you? It defies every romantic notion we've been fed since childhood, that love is pursuit, that devotion is surrender, that caring deeply means holding tightly. But there exists a paradox at the heart of human desire, one that Freud himself recognized in the shadowed corridors of the unconscious. We are drawn most powerfully to what we cannot possess, to what remains mysteriously beyond our grasp. The woman who masters emotional detachment doesn't become cold, she becomes complete. She understands something fundamental about the architecture of attraction, that desire is not born from availability, but from the magnetic pull of someone who exists fully within herself, who needs nothing from the external world to confirm her worth. This is not a manipulation, this is an awakening. This is the reclamation of a self that perhaps was lost somewhere in the desperate mathematics of trying to be enough for someone else. Consider the psychology at play. When you are emotionally attached, when your happiness rises and falls with his texts, his attention, his moods, you become energetically enmeshed. Your nervous system syncs to his rhythms. Your sense of self becomes contingent upon his validation. And here, right here, is where you lose him. Not because you care too much, but because in caring so desperately, you abandon the very wholeness that drew him to you in the first place. The masculine psyche, in all its complexity, is wired to seek what Freud called the unattainable object. When you make yourself entirely attainable, entirely decipherable, entirely accessible, you dissolve the tension that attraction requires to survive. Emotional detachment is not indifference, it is sovereignty. It is the profound understanding that your emotional state is not a democracy where he gets a vote. It is the recognition that you can care for someone deeply while simultaneously knowing with bone-deep certainty that you do not need him to be complete. This distinction is everything. The Stoics knew it. Marcus Aurelius wrote of controlling only what is within your power, your thoughts, your reactions, your inner citadel, while releasing attachment to external outcomes. Epictetus taught that suffering comes not from events themselves, but from our judgments about them, from our desperate clinging to how we believe things should be. When you detach, you stop performing. You stop shaping yourself into the version you think he wants. You stop monitoring his engagement like a stock portfolio, analyzing every pause, every delayed response, every shift in tone for evidence of your worth or lack thereof. This performance, this exhausting, soul-depleting performance, is what drains attraction of its vitality. Men can sense it, even if they can't articulate it. They feel the weight of being needed, the pressure of being responsible for your emotional equilibrium, and instinctively they withdraw. Not because they're cruel, but because the human psyche resists being made responsible for another's wholeness. But watch what happens when you step back, when you redirect that obsessive energy inward, when you begin filling your own cup from your own well. Something shifts in the energetic field between you. Where there was once pursuit and retreat, there is now space. Where there was once anxiety and reassurance seeking, there is now mystery. You become again what you were before the attachment formed, a woman with her own life, her own desires, her own gravitational pull, and he, whether consciously or unconsciously, feels the change. The power dynamic rebalances. You are no longer the woman waiting by the phone. You are the woman who might not answer it because she's genuinely occupied with something that matters to her. This is not a game. This is a return to psychological wholeness. This is what Jung called individuation, the process of becoming who you actually are rather than who you believe you must be in order to earn love. The male psyche operates on a principle that few dare to acknowledge openly. Scarcity creates value, and abundance creates complacency. This is not cruelty, this is not shallowness. This is the ancient wiring of pursuit and conquest that lives in the unconscious. The part of him that responds not to your words, but to your energy, not to your declarations, but to your embodied reality. When you are emotionally detached, you signal something primal, that you are not captured, not conquered, not possessed. And this creates what Freud identified as the fundamental tension that drives all human longing, the gap between what is desired and what is obtained. She who detaches does not play hard to get. She becomes genuinely difficult to reach because she has somewhere else to be, inside herself, inside her purpose, inside a life that existed before him and will exist after him. This is the critical distinction that separates strategy from authenticity. You cannot fake this. The moment you are performing detachment while secretly obsessing, monitoring, calculating his response, you are still attached. You are still bound. The energy betrays you. But when the detachment is real, when you have genuinely redirected your focus to your own becoming, the shift is palpable. He feels it in his body before his mind can explain it. Consider the woman who waited by her phone, who canceled plans in case he might call, who shaped her entire existence around his availability. She believed this was love. She believed this was devotion. But what she was actually performing was self-abandonment. And self-abandonment, no matter how it's dressed up in romantic language, is repellent to the masculine at a deep, unconscious level. Why? Because a man does not want to be your everything. He wants to be chosen by someone who could survive without him, who has something real to lose by walking away. The woman who needs him is a burden. The woman who wants him from a place of overflow is irresistible. Seneca wrote that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. How many hours have you lost to the spiral of anxious thoughts, reading into his silence, catastrophizing about what it means, building narratives of rejection and inadequacy from the simple fact that he didn't text back within 15 minutes? This is the prison of attachment, not the feeling itself, but the mental torture you inflict upon yourself in the space between stimulus and response. Emotional detachment is the freedom that comes from recognizing that his behavior is information, not indictment, that his silence might mean nothing about you and everything about where he is in his own psychological landscape. The shadow work here is confronting why you need his validation in the first place. What wound are you trying to heal through his attention? What childhood absence are you trying to fill with his presence? Freud understood that we replay our earliest traumas in our romantic relationships, seeking unconsciously to resolve what was left unfinished. The father who was emotionally unavailable, the mother whose love felt conditional. These blueprints live in your nervous system, and they drive you toward men who will recreate the familiar pattern of seeking approval that never quite comes. Detachment begins when you see this pattern, when you recognize that you are not actually wanting him. You are wanting the resolution of an ancient ache that he was never meant to heal. This is liberation. This is the moment when you stop asking him to be your healer and become your own. When you parent the wounded parts of yourself with the consistency and tenderness they always needed. When you prove to your own nervous system that you will not abandon yourself, even when he does, even when he disappears, even when he chooses someone else, you remain. And in that remaining, in that fierce commitment to your own wholeness, you become magnetic in a way that neediness never could be. Watch how he returns. Not all of them will. Some are meant to be lessons, not partners. But the ones who are aligned, the ones who have done their own work, will feel the shift and respond. Because a woman who is complete within herself, who does not collapse when he pulls away, who maintains her center regardless of his weather. This woman is rare. This woman is the one who haunts him long after she's gone.
The transformation happens in stages, and it is not linear. First comes the recognition. The moment you see with startling clarity how much of yourself you have poured into the empty vessel of his approval, how you have contorted and compressed your vastness to fit into the narrow space of what you believed he wanted. This recognition is painful. It requires you to confront the ways you have betrayed yourself, the moments you silenced your intuition because speaking it might push him away, the times you laughed at jokes that weren't funny and agreed with opinions that contradicted your truth. This is the death that must precede rebirth. Then comes the withdrawal, not from him necessarily, but from the obsessive mental occupation he has claimed in your inner world. You begin to notice how much real estate he occupies in your consciousness, how many thoughts per hour are dedicated to analyzing him, predicting him, trying to solve the puzzle of him. The Stoics called this preferred indifference, things that are nice to have but should not determine your inner peace. His affection is a preferred indifferent. His presence is a preferred indifferent. Your worth, your wholeness, your fundamental okayness willingness, these cannot be indifference. These must be immovable truths that exist independent of external confirmation. As you withdraw your energy, as you redirect it toward your own life, your own growth, your own pleasure, something alchemical occurs. The space between you changes texture. Where there was once clinging and resistance, there is now flow. You stop trying to force outcomes. You stop trying to convince him of your value. You stop auditioning for a role in his life. And in that stopping, in that radical acceptance of what is, rather than what you wish it to be, you reclaim your power. Not power over him, that was never real anyway, but power over yourself. The power to choose your response, the power to walk away, the power to stay only when staying serves your highest becoming. He notices. Of course he notices. The masculine psyche is exquisitely attuned to shifts in pursuit dynamic. When you were chasing, he could relax. When you were available, he could be ambivalent. But now that you have turned your attention elsewhere, now that you have become genuinely occupied with your own existence, the ancient circuitry activates. What was once certain becomes uncertain. What was once guaranteed becomes questionable. And uncertainty, as any student of psychology knows, is the breeding ground of obsession. The brain cannot tolerate unfinished business. It loops and returns, trying to resolve the question, why doesn't she need me anymore? But here is where the danger lives, where many women stumble. He returns, and she collapses back into the old pattern. He offers breadcrumbs of attention, and she abandons the feast she was preparing for herself. She interprets his renewed interest as evidence that the detachment worked, that the strategy succeeded, and now she can return to attachment. This is the trap. Because if your detachment was only a means to an end, if it was only a technique to get him back, then it was never real detachment at all. It was just another form of manipulation, and the collapse back into neediness is inevitable. True detachment means you have genuinely moved into a new paradigm. You have discovered that you are whole without him, that your life is full without him, that while you might enjoy his presence, might choose his company, might even love him deeply, you do not need him to survive, to thrive, to know yourself as valuable. This is the integration that Jung spoke of, the union of opposites within yourself, where you can hold both love and independence, both connection and autonomy, both openness and self-protection in the same container without contradiction. When he returns to this woman, he returns to someone different. She is not the same person he left. She has metabolized the pain, transmuted the rejection, used the absence as raw material for her own evolution. She does not punish him for leaving, but she also does not pretend it didn't happen. She meets him with clarity, with boundaries, with the quiet confidence of someone who knows she has other options. Not other men necessarily, but other ways of being, other sources of joy, other paths to fulfillment. She is no longer negotiating from scarcity. She is offering from abundance. And abundance, true abundance, is the most seductive force in the human experience. The paradox deepens here, in this space where you hold your heart open while keeping your hands empty. Emotional detachment does not mean you cease to feel. It means you cease to let those feelings dictate your choices, your worth, your reality. You can love him and simultaneously know you will be fine without him. You can desire his presence and simultaneously build a life so rich that his absence doesn't create a void, only a different texture to your days. This is the mastery that eludes most, the ability to hold tenderness and strength in the same breath, to be vulnerable without being dependent, to care deeply without being controlled by that caring. The wounded feminine believes she must choose, either guard her heart behind walls of ice or surrender it completely and risk annihilation. But the integrated woman knows a third way. She remains open, receptive, feeling everything with exquisite sensitivity, while simultaneously standing so firmly in her own center that no external storm can uproot her. This is not coldness, this is warrior-level emotional intelligence. This is what the ancient philosophers meant by equanimity, the calm that persists regardless of circumstance, the inner stillness that no external chaos can penetrate. And this is what terrifies him, in the most delicious way. Not fear of you, but fear of losing access to you. Because a woman who does not need him sees him clearly. She sees through the posturing, the defenses, the carefully constructed persona he presents to the world. She sees the man beneath, and she chooses him anyway, or she doesn't. But her choice is conscious, deliberate,
rooted in reality rather than fantasy. She is not projecting her father onto him, not trying to heal her childhood through him, not using him to fill the emptiness that only self-love can fill. She wants him for who he actually is, and this kind of seeing, this kind of being truly witnessed, is what every human soul craves beneath all the armor. But it requires that he step up. The woman who is emotionally detached will not tolerate half-hearted effort, breadcrumbs of attention, the slow fade, the situationship that never solidifies into commitment. She has too much respect for herself to accept scraps. And this boundary, this standard, is what activates his potential. The masculine rises to meet the feminine standard, but only when that standard is non-negotiable. Only when she demonstrates through her actions that she will walk away rather than compromise her worth. Words mean nothing here. He must see that you will actually leave, that you have already left energetically, and he is now in the position of earning his way back into your presence. Some men will not rise. Some men will let you walk away, and this is the information you need. Not all connections are meant to become partnerships. Not every attraction is meant to mature into love. Some people enter your life to teach you what you will no longer tolerate, to show you where your boundaries were too porous, to mirror back the places where you still abandoned yourself. These are not failures. These are initiations. The man who cannot meet you in your wholeness is simply not your match, and releasing him creates space for one who can. The woman who understands this walks differently through the world. She does not cling to potential. She does not try to convince anyone of her value. She does not exhaust herself trying to be someone she's not. She simply is, fully, unapologetically, radiantly herself. And she trusts that the right person will recognize her, will meet her, will choose her with the same clarity and intention she brings. This trust is not naive. It is earned through the brutal, beautiful work of coming home to yourself, of proving to your own nervous system that you are safe, that you are enough, that you will not abandon yourself ever again, regardless of who stays or goes. In the end, emotional detachment is not about him at all. It never was. It is about you reclaiming dominion over your inner world, refusing to outsource your emotional state to someone else's behavior, standing so solidly in your own worth that external validation becomes irrelevant. Yes, he may want you more when you detach. Yes, the pursuit dynamic may flip. Yes, he may suddenly see what he's losing and scramble to keep you. But this is merely the byproduct, not the purpose. The purpose is your freedom. The purpose is your peace. The purpose is becoming so whole within yourself that you need nothing from anyone to know you are magnificent. The woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she chooses.